Thank you for tuning in to Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. The following content may involve explicit language and materials, so listener discretion is advised. So we're going to go ahead and record because I didn't do that. The one down here, I was setting it up, so I needed to make sure I could see it. But that one is all you.
Good thing I got pants on.
I do not.
Oh.
This is a No Pants podcast.
Have you heard of the Hodag store?
I know what a Hodag is, but I've not heard of the store.
They have their own brand of honey.
For real?
It's based off of one of their mascot. They have this dog, this little bulldog, so they call it Bulldog Bee Honey or something like that. It's so cute. I couldn't resist it. I ordered me some.
This thing's... She can't stay. Okay. Our candles. So I don't have anything. Oh, let's go again. And I can't do any of this. I'm like way over here. See? All right. Apparently this ball over here, which is typically either Philip or we have a new guest that comes to visit me all the time, and his name is Steven. I actually found out who Steven is. This is me. Okay, so maybe this... How does it work? This must be Steven. He's liking you today. That's really interesting. But anyway, for everybody who doesn't know Chris, he's also the one, if you go back into my post and you see that adorable freaking animated, holy shit, it's going again. But that little adorable little fox version of me, he did that for me. And I just absolutely freaking adore it. But if you would, I'm going to go ahead. I know you've already been on before, but if you want to just touch base on just what you do, anything about yourself, where people can find you. And holy shit, this thing is going bananas. All right, it's going to be one of those days today. All right, let's do this. Buckle up, y'all.
Yeah, I host Conspire Theory. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter with Conspire Theory, all one word. On YouTube, just search Conspire Theory. You should be able to find me there. I'm slowly building up a plethora of episodes on their video episodes. So there's not much there, but there will be forthcoming in the future. My show covers mostly cryptids and conspiracies and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Every now and then I'll delve into entertainment. We'll have authors and comics of science fiction and then other stuff like that come on and just talk shop. Because I'm a artist myself, and I love talking shop with other artists.
I always think it's really fascinating because, I mean, I too have had authors on. I've actually been in contact. I had a man reach out who I thought was so funny because I am actually at some point, I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know anything, but I do dabble a little in the poetry spectrum. And I wanted to get Stalker. What will happen? Okay. Wow. Okay.
Hopefully that's not you.
Yeah. I do have one that's a creep, I found out. And I found out which one it is. But anyway, I want to get together like a little works of like cryptid poetry.
Oh, that's cute.
A guy reached out to me that was also ironically doing cryptid poetry and was like, hey, can you read this and just let me know, do a little critique. What do you think? Is it missing something? And he was so absolutely amazing. So when his gets published, I'm going to be shouting him out. But I'm wanting to work on something of my own to put out there. I am not, I am very creative, not necessarily talented. I'm just like one step above stick figures. My hair, something in here. So actually it's really funny. So this is your hair. It's a new thing. Gary. Hi, Gary. I don't know who Gary is, but the past week and a half, 2 weeks, it's a new thing. So when I had a new spirit show up that was acting a certain way and he was like a creep, basically. But when he showed up, all of a sudden, like things it feels like somebody's like messing with my hair. And it'll be like moving things. And I had somebody on, I don't remember if I was on their show or they were on my show. And now right now I'm like fresh out of the shower, so it's all wet and weighted down. But when it was all fluffy and everything, they were like watching me and then got a weird look on their face. And you could see part of my hair was moving
Mm.
and I wasn't touching it. I was like, can we not do that, please? But it keeps referring to my hair. So something loves my hair. Weirdo.
Everyone loves a natural redhead. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Gingers unite. I tell them all the time. People are like, I don't know what it is about you. I'm like, it's because I have flaming orange hair, okay? I'm like, you can't
Mhm.
see it in the video. This is very much.
It's funny if they're like crawling up. Is there a soul in there?
Yeah, maybe
They're
they're
trying
like,
to check to see if you got a soul.
yeah, this is perfect. What's under a horse's tail? A horse's ass? At least that's what my uncle used to joke with me about all the time. Now, normally I would do, I know last time we did more of like an interview based situation, but this time now I didn't go really in depth and cover everything I could have because then we would have been here for 4 hours. But
Yeah.
I do have some information, just like some basic information, a little bit of stats. I have a couple like little shorties to throw in there. We are talking about sleep paralysis. And as I was looking some of this stuff up, I was actually very surprised that I don't have it because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about, as far as what could cause it, actually they're pertinent to me, but I've never had it. So I'm okay with that. I see enough demons when I'm awake. I don't need them when I'm sleeping. Just throwing that out there. They can stay somewhere else. Now, for those of you who don't know, basic he hides. Somebody's hiding. But the basic kind of definition is when you're sleeping and you, it says, I'm unsure. You're basically feeling like you're conscious, but unable to move. And it typically happens in the sleep stage of what is called rapid eye movement or REM. I mean, everybody calls it whatever, different. But it typically happens either, especially when you're like just falling asleep or getting ready to wake up. It's like your brain somehow wakes up a little bit in front of your body. So your body's not quite there. So even though your brain is awake, maybe not completely coherent, but awake, you can't physically move because your body is still sleeping. So that's basically the main definition of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I thought this is one word that I saw. It said that these dreams are classified as parasomnia. And I had never heard that word before. Have you heard that word before?
I've heard of somnia, but usually it's referenced to
Yeah. I've had
kinks.
I have insomnia. Hi, Stacy. I don't know who Stacy is. I know a Stacy. We know a Stacy.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Stacy.
all right, so it says a parasomnia is a sleep disorder that involves unusual and undesirable physical events or experiences that disrupt your sleep. It can occur before or during sleep or during, well, waking up. Oh, there's ball again. Hi. If you have parasomnia, you might have abnormal movements, talk, express emotions, or do. So make a noise. Actually, that's true. That's funny because you can make noises. So, well, all right. So I'm being outed. Something over here apparently watches me when I sleep because I actually do make a lot of weird noises in my sleep. And a lot of people would say that might be some form of parasomnia because I will kick and move. I have had my husband wake me up before because the sounds that I was making were so creepy. I mean, it literally sounded like I was a demon in a foreign language chanting. And he woke me up. He's done that more than once. He's like, dude, your demon's showing.
Mm.
And I mean, I guess it's really creepy. I was like, yeah, he doesn't get to record this because I don't know what it sounds like. But apparently it's really scary because he's very skeptical. And if it creeps him out enough to wake me up, it's probably no bueno.
Yeah, I've had like restless sleep where
Yeah.
my arms flop around all over the place, but nothing guttural, nothing
Oh,
vocal.
yeah. Mine will be like, but it sounds like actual words that nobody understands. It's really creepy from way down deep. Maybe there's a demon in here somewhere. I really think there is, but we'll get into that another time. Now, they do say that the inability to move is due to something called muscle atonia. And basically, this person will lose the ability to move virtually any part of their body. I mean, I've heard a lot of people where they say it's like they're awake, but all they can do is like move their eyes and look around, but they can't. Do you need it? Do we need what? Now, the 75% of the time, these events are accompanied with visual hallucinations that generally involve either dangerous and nefarious presence, which is usually a shadow person or shadow man or whatever you guys want to call it, a succubus, an incubus, or an old hag. Which I think anybody who's heard about sleep paralysis, we all know most of those things that are seen. I did go a little bit here into the incubus one just because I thought it was a little extra creepy and weird. Disclaimer, oh yeah. Disclaimer, extra disclaimer. I don't think it's going to be too bad, but just in case. Okay, we're not doing any rituals, but this thing's going crazy up here now. Something's back there. Okay, I know who this is. That's their name that I know. Hi, Ziggy. That's his last name. I found out, which is really crazy. We'll have to remind me at the end, and I'll tell you about how I found out who that one is. Because it's really... Now, the incubus encounters specifically involved visual hallucinations, which are accompanied with experiencing pressure on the chest while simultaneously basically being the spirit entity, whatever, is committing aggressive and or sexual acts. So basically, you're being like assaulted in your sleep, like held down and assaulted. And trust me, that is not fun. Not fun when you can see who's doing it, and it definitely be a little creepier when I guess you can technically see what it is, but if it's not human, it's even worse, I would imagine. Ugh, I mean, sorry. I think I make that sound in every episode. Sorry, guys. For those of you who have that weird response. Now, at the same time, people have also reported having anxiety, paralysis, and feeling not only are you being sat on, but you're being suffocated, which I thought was creepy. I mean, I just can't even imagine waking up feeling like you're dying. It's all over, guys. And another thing I thought was weird is, so we have all these things where it feels like somebody's sitting on you, you're looking at it or whatever. But there's also some that have reported, actually, there's been a lot that have reported actually having out of body feeling. Like they're not actually in their own body, which I'm wondering how that works. If you're having an out of body experience, can you still feel like you're being sat on and suffocated? A lot of scientists that they all try to poo-poo everything, right? They typically say during this stage of sleep where you're having these hallucinations, these things are happening, there is an inhibition of your motor neurons, which actually causes a decrease in activity, particularly in your respiratory muscles. So they're saying during this fading in and out stage of your sleep, your body just naturally inhibits your ability to breathe, which maybe your body just tries to choke you out every night. Who knows? But with that being said, that would explain, I feel like I'm being suffocated. I feel like something's sitting on me. I can't breathe. I can't get a deep breath. If your body just naturally slows your breathing and your heart rate typically when you're sleeping. So that at least makes scientific sense. Not sure how I feel about it, but at least logically it tracks.
I don't know if that goes into the realms of sleep apnea.
I'm wondering if sleep apnea is your body is overachieving. So like naturally everybody's body does this. Maybe some people's bodies do it too much, or they don't come out of it like most people do. Because isn't that when you stop breathing or you get like obstructed airways or something? Because I know a lot of people that have it.
It's mostly associated with snoring, excessive snoring. And when you don't get like a full night's sleep, it's like usually because you're not technically sleeping, you're just like, you stop breathing. And I mean, I have sleep apnea, but these experiences happened before I was officially diagnosed.
Yeah. Do you have tonsils?
Mm, I think I do. Yeah.
Because I've noticed a lot of times, just people that I know that have sleep apnea have never had their tonsils removed. And I wonder if that's because sometimes your tonsils, they're large or they get in the way or whatever, and they constrict your airway. So maybe that has some correlation with it. Somebody's confused and somebody's touching me. Now, some other characteristics of the REM cycle in particular are hypervigilance, which starts in what they call the midbrain, and it actually leads to paranoia. It can actually increase your heart rate, and people get that fear feeling from this hypervigilance. So
Hmm.
it's like your body's fight or flight, it seems like, tends to ramp up in this part of the brain, and it just happens during your REM cycle. Which, if you're factoring in at the same time, your body's shutting down, you might not be able to feel like you're breathing and you might have hallucinations. Being hypervigilant might not be the best trait to have in that scenario. Go
Felt
ahead.
that
Sorry.
in relation to my experience. That was definitely a factor in that. I felt like I woke up and then I was suddenly on edge.
Yeah. And I say I've never experienced, but I've heard a lot of people that kind of say a similar thing. Now, I have night terrors and I'll wake up in like a dead sweats and I will actually wake myself up screaming bloody murder and like kicking and stuff, but I don't have any real time hallucinations or visual anything. It's just, and I really don't like using the word hallucination. It's just that's what they use in all the research. So sorry, I am well aware that I don't typically would consider it a hallucination because hallucinations are not real in theory. Sexed. That's literally what I got. I do air quotes that it gives me that. But they say that 7.6% of the general population actually experience sleep paralysis at some point, at least once in their life. And I actually thought that was really high. I was not expecting it to be that high. Some of them even said that up to 20% would experience it at least once. They do say a lot of times, I don't know when yours started, but they say a lot of times the symptoms start usually when someone's in their teens and then they can escalate or intensify in their 20s and 30s. And some of the things that they think that contribute to the condition that's like a prerequisite or may have some kind of effect are certain anxiety disorders, which I have anxiety issues, not getting a good quality of sleep, which I also don't get, drinking alcohol or abusing other substances. I really don't do that much, but experiencing traumatic events, check. Having a genetic predisposition. So they actually think that if your parent and stuff, if there is a correlation in your family where multiple people or anybody in your family maybe experiences it, your risk of experiencing the same encounters are higher. And I found out my mom actually does it, or she's had it at least once. So that kind of freaked me out. Life events that are high in stress, we'll have to check every freaking day of the week. Changes to one's work or life schedule. I don't know who Bobby is, but hi, Bobby. Highly emotional experiences. Guess what? I'm bipolar, which actually is mental disorders like bipolar, which make everything a little on the emotional edge. And apparently, sleeping on your back. I thought that was odd, which I guess makes sense if you're sleeping on your back and you're feeling like you can't breathe. That extra weight coming down from the back maybe causes something. But I don't know. I'm just giving you the deets that I got and we can interpret it as we feel because we're free on this podcast, bitches. We do what we want. But they do say that even though you can be assessed and evaluated for triggers and such, there's really no direct proven treatment during an active episode. Some say that if you're having an episode and you've got this thing in there, try to wiggle your fingers or your toes one at a time. And sometimes that'll help. I don't know. But it also says you can have somebody like basically with you sleeping, right? Or I guess watch you, which is even creepier. But it says to have somebody like talk to you and try to wake you up, and that should help. But that just seems weird. And I don't even know how the person would know. If you're sleeping with somebody in your bed, but they're asleep, how are they going to know if you can't move or talk? I mean, I don't know how that would work. But sometimes they say you can actually do a little work with the triggers to try to prevent them from happening so that way you don't have to worry about it. They use some stuff that's focused attention meditation combined with muscle relaxation therapy. So you're basically training your mind and your body to react a certain way or to not do certain things as you fall asleep or whatever. Some other things you can do to prevent it are maintain a fixed sleep schedule, which let me tell you, I don't care if you're going through sleep paralysis or what your problem is, or even if you don't have a problem. Getting a fixed sleep schedule is phenomenal for your health. People talk about their internal alarm clocks. It's no fucking joke. I'm Natasha. This is Chris. That's what our names are. Do you have a name? I'm always afraid to ask that because I'm like, what if it's like some creepy freaking demon name? But that was weird because I literally just smelled like something was burning in here. Good. None of my candles are hot. I mean, they're on, but that was weird. Anyway, make sure that you have a I see you. Wow. That came out weird. Okay. Are we done? Can I have my voice box back? Because I prefer to have it on here. And make sure you have a comfortable pillow or mattress. Limit the noise and light interruptions. One, don't sleep with the TV on. Develop a pre-bedtime routine that does not include TV. It says, I'm aware. Limit your caffeine and alcohol consumption, like specifically in the evening. Turn off all electronic devices at least 30 minutes before you go to bed so you don't have that extra stimulation. It allows your brain to calm down on its own naturally so that you're not overly stimulated and then going to bed that way. And there is some cognitive behavioral therapy, which they say helps. And then making sure you get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Good luck. I only get 3 to 5, but we'll take it. And I wanted to make sure I pointed out here that sleep paralysis is not an Americanized idea. I mean, it might have been Americanized, but it did not originate here. I mean, these sleep paralysis issues and entities have shown up all over the world. Now, there was a Dutch physician that published a case history of a woman all the way back into 1664. And she stated the devil lay upon her and held her down. And I'm going to be posting a picture with my posts and probably with the episode. That is a super, super famous, like everybody knows about it. It's like a woman. She's like laying all like, of course, like the old days, she's like half naked on her bed or whatever. And there's like a demon sitting on her. And it's the best way you can explain it. I mean, overall, I mean, that's the best depiction of it in like the bare sense. So the Japanese, however, called it kanashibari, which is a term that roots in Buddhism back when people believed that Buddhist monks would paralyze other people using magic, which I thought was interesting. Definitely want to look into that a little more because that's cool. In Newfoundland, they actually consider the event to be an attack of the old hag, which kind of tracks still to this day. People call it that. The Chinese back in the day had referred to it as the ghost oppression. Reports even down in Mexico. I'm not singing for you right now. I'm in the middle of something here. They literally, thank you, absolutely. For whatever reason, this weird stuff's been happening probably the last 2 weeks or so. I'm sitting here and it's like this song popped in my head. It's not even a real song. It's like 2 or 3 lines. And I just made it up. It just popped in my head one day. And it's like a jingle to a song that I know the song, but these are definitely not the words. But I cannot get it out of my head. And it keeps asking me. One day I just was singing it. And every single time now, they keep asking me to sing. And then what's funny is they'll be asking me to sing this whole time. And then they'll give me 2 words. And it's the 2 words that the song starts with. Oh, it's apologizing. Accepted. It's just really weird because they always want me to sing this one song, and it's really funny. It's just stupid, but it's okay. I do it every now and then. But anyway, reports in Mexico, it says I'm aware, describe the event as a dead body climbed on top of me, which just sounds creepy as hell. Even the Egyptians, like way back in the day, thought that it was initiated by jinn or genies. But when they look at it, it's not just a sleep thing. You're not going to, jinn can kill your ass in your sleep. So they were exceptionally fearful of these entities visiting them because to them, they could physically kill you in your sleep, which is really scary. In Italy, they think it's called, this is where I love this one. This is great. An assault by what they call a bandifice or pace. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not Italian. But which is a malevolent witch or a horrifying huge cat. And I was just like, a big cat. Got it. Which did not pop into my head until just now. I wonder if that's funny. That's in Italy. But if anybody listened to my first episode, if you didn't listen to the first episode I ever did, go listen to it. One, I loved it. I had such a blast. But Grila's cat from the Icelandic like Christmas lore, the troll lady that had all the kids, the trolls, she had a big cat. And that's what I'm thinking is I'm picturing this big giant cat with like razor sharp fur and stuff like that. That's what I'm picturing. I don't know. Maybe it's just Garfield. I mean, it is Italy. So maybe he's just like, where's your lasagna? I don't know. But another thing I thought was really crazy was we're going to have a callback here. Natives in South Africa believe that it's caused by black magic, the Sagatalilo, and they think it involves creatures called Tokoloshi. And if you guys want to hear some crazy encounters, reported things, and details and learn about that, I did like a mini series with Melissa from Ouch Was That a Ghost? And I think it's a 3-part series just on Tokoloshi. And they're crazy. And the encounters reported for the Tokoloshi are not one-off, one-person encounters. It is groups of people at the same time encountering these things, which I think adds a little veracity to. I have a couple little short ones here just for typical encounters. And I just said they're pretty short. This one says, it happened for the first time when I was 14. I couldn't move, didn't understand what it was. My most prominent time having to experience sleep paralysis was last year while laying in bed. I fell asleep pretty quick, but then I woke up with the pressure of a hand on my right shoulder. When I could turn around, I saw an old hag. She had long, craggy gray hair, a pale greenish face, a long nose, and creepiest of all, her eyes were all black. She smiled at me, then took off. That's when I snapped out of my paralysis. And that was by whoever this user OHS5 is. So all these links are going to be in my description too. So you guys can go find those. There's more encounters on there than one I put on here. I just wanted to make sure I had room for Chris. So we didn't want to lose because you're for a treat. Big treat. Second one is I am 42 and first had a nightmare about a terrifying witch at the age of 16. She kneels on my chest and stares into my face, slowly getting nearer and nearer. I am completely terrified. She wears a black cloak and hood. Her face is like a witch and evil generates from her. Surrounds me from her. Other times I can be lying on my stomach and she will creep her hand up the back of my head, down my face, and hook her fingers under my top teeth and pull my head back. Other times she will bite, sit on the bed, knock the door, call my name, and generally scare the crap out of me. How can anyone explain this? And that's from Jane.Owen. So those are 2 encounters that I've heard other people explain similar situations. But this thing like running its freaking hand up and no, what nothing to do with that. You can spooky me all you want, but don't touch me. Definitely don't put your hand in my mouth. I don't know where that hand's been. Don't put it in my mouth. What if you could get like spectral cooties? This is appreciated. So it also agrees. Don't put your hand in my mouth. A lot of people encounter similar entities and stuff. I know that you have an exceptionally unique encounter, and I cannot wait. So, the moment I've been waiting for, y'all, I'm going to open the floor to Chris so that Chris can explain to us his interesting entities.
I was either in my late 20s or early 30s. I was having a stressful time at work. I was on a rotating schedule, so I didn't have the proper sleep schedule. So I was
Mhm.
doing overnights and I was sleeping during the day, and this was during the daytime. And even though I have the blackout curtains and all that stuff, I still had light flooding my room. And I'm laying on my back, and as far as I know, I'm just taking a nap before I settle properly to get to bed after a hard day's work.
You're just resting your eyes, right?
Yeah. Then I feel this rush of, I feel like there's like someone took a vial of fear and just started pumping it through my veins.
Says how?
Uh,
It's
it's
interesting. It's
like,
really interesting in your story.
it's as though as if you feel like a sudden rush through your veins, and that's what I felt like. It felt like someone was pumping liquid fear through my veins, and my body was weighed down. But of course, the thing is, I didn't feel a concentrated weight on my chest. It was like all over my body instead. And I'm laying there, and I suddenly have this heightened alert, this like fight or flight is totally triggered. And then the door slowly opens, and in walk in these two entities. They look like, I could best describe them as either truckers or rednecks or whatever.
You look like hillbilly.
Yeah, they look like hillbillies. And one is very tall, has fiery red hair. It's very spiky, and it's like as if yours, but much lighter, much, much lighter. And then he has this, he's overweight. He's got like a black top, but it fits him like a tube top because it's two sizes too tight. So his belly is hanging out, and he's got these bicycle shorts on. And as far as I can tell, he's wearing just regular tennis shoes. And he's just got this sort of vacant, like dumb expression on his face, like it's completely dull. Whatever
Yeah,
you imagine,
like Bubba.
dumb. Yeah, exactly. He just, and then his companion is this shorter, hunched over man. He's probably, the first one was probably about 6, maybe almost 7 feet tall. It was very tall. Almost reached the ceiling, definitely.
Ugh,
The second one was a smaller, scrunchier, hunched over man. They both had trucker caps on. And
I need to send
this
us some
one,
merch.
he had some, he had disheveled brown hair, and he had this sort of Fu Manchu mustache, and he had the most wrinkled, leathery face, and he had this stern look on his face, this very stern, piercing stare.
Ugh.
And he was just dressed in regular t-shirt and jeans, and he had this overcoat, this plaid overcoat, which was, it was blue and green. This blue and green overcoat. And then he looked like he had some sort of spinal deformity that made him short and hunched over. He didn't look like he was naturally that short. It looked like there was some result of being either crippled or deformed.
Was he old? Try to remember.
And then, so then these two guys enter into my bedroom, and they start, they don't come towards me. They go towards my closet and my drawers and my shelves and stuff, and they start opening them up and rooting through them. And then every now and then the short one will turn to look at me, and just to, certainly just to make sure I'm not moving. And then they started to open doors and closet space that there were no closets in. I don't have a sliding door closet. I have a walk-in closet. For some reason,
Oh,
on an empty wall, they opened up a sliding door. And in that, I guess, false door or whatever, there was closet space. There was coats and racks and other closet refuge, just whatever. And they started going through that stuff. And they just, the one kept looking at me. And then I could feel myself slowly gain control because at this time I understood what sleep paralysis was. And I knew how to get out of it by doing that finger trick
yeah.
like you were talking about
So it
earlier.
works?
Yeah, it does work.
Oh, good.
And I was doing that.
That one says it works.
And somehow they could sense that I was coming to, that I was regaining control. And as I did, they slowly backed out and closed the door behind him and left, I guess. And when I shot up, I was distraught.
By the way, my spirits here both, they said that they like you. It said we like you.
Mhm.
So you have fans here today.
Yeah, that's good. And then when I shot up, of course, I was still like on edge. I go through my dwelling, I go through my apartment, and I look for, they're nowhere to be found. Because I've been burglarized before, I have layers of security of electronics and deadbolts, and they would have had to have been molested from the inside to get out, but nothing was messed with. There was nothing. Almost like they disappeared into fat air.
That's so weird. I'm just thinking,
And
I'm picturing a very tall Larry the Cable Guy and some sick little old man when their spine hunches over at the top. Or maybe he's got, it's not spina bifida, I'm thinking scoliosis, but scoliosis is a curve like an S, not like a hunchback.
yeah, it could have been curved like an S, and I don't know, but obviously the individual was hunched over for some reason.
Hmm.
He was clearly misshapen and bent in an unnatural way for what should have been his regular body. It was very odd. And that's pretty much what happened. Subsequently, I felt the presence of one of them before. When I was sleeping on my side, I felt the presence of the tall, redheaded one. I felt him standing behind me, but I don't know how. I never saw anything, but I felt like that was him.
Oh,
And he
so
was,
I totally agree that sometimes, like I tell people all the time, if they want you to see them, you will freaking see them. Whether you're sensitive or not, whatever they want you to feel, some of them have the ability and the power to do it regardless. And I feel like a lot of them, because it does take, I would imagine it takes more, this says no energy. Exactly. Let's get ready to say it takes more energy to create a full ass apparition, that some of them can still almost, I don't know if psychic would be the word I'm looking for, but could impose a visual of what they want you to think they look like in your mind without actually conjuring a full apparition.
yeah,
I 100% believe that.
like a screen memory.
Yes.
Some people regard that as a screen memory.
It's this podcast. Even my spooks are listening.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, he doesn't look old.
But it's a very weathered and leathered face.
Yeah.
And a large, brushy, thick mustache. And I guess I could have done it better, but this was like a rush job. But I definitely want to try to draw these guys again. See if I could better translate it.
This is going to sound really like I'm being an asshole, but I'm really not trying to sound like a dick. So sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What if he was hunchback because of some kind of genetic mutation. Maybe there wasn't a very wide gene pool.
Mm,
That would explain one of them having physical characteristics and the other one appearing to have some mental something going on.
no, I don't know. I don't know what it would have been that they would have, what would have been the case, but they were clearly, they weren't human. They were like ethereal beings, I guess. I don't know, whatever it is that they choose to represent or whatever their backstory was, I have no idea what it would have been, but
Where did you live when this happened?
I'm
State?
still where I am now. It's just I was in a different, it was either here or it was probably would have been like at another apartment.
What I can't remember. What state are you in? I don't want to narrow it down too
Um,
much, but what state are you in?
Texas.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. All right. If it's a being that's trying to portray something that other people are familiar with, and you are in Texas, no offense, Texas, I love you guys, but typically in Texas, I mean, now if it was like Louisiana or like Georgia or something, it'd be even more. But if you think about it, a lot of people in Texas are generally known for being more, I feel like country is not the greatest word I'm looking for here, but
I guess rural.
yeah, rural, backwoodsy or something. So maybe it was just that maybe they wanted to portray something that they thought they could get away with because it would be familiar, not
Mhm.
realizing that maybe you were not familiar specifically with this genre of peeps or comfortable with this genre of peeps. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they were just trying to be like, it's if you have aliens that come and visit all the time in the 50s and their disguise is always like 50s based, but then they come in the 90s, but they're still thinking they got to dress like the 50s, but they stand out like a sore thumb. And you're like, something's weird about this
Mhm.
guy. Like,
Yeah,
something's
yeah,
real weird.
I could definitely see that. They were trying to blend in. And as
And
for if we
uh,
were to use the screen memory thing, I don't know what they would have been underneath, but this form that they chose was definitely it was for me, it was fear inducing because I'm
really?
like unsettled because it's like people of Walmart are coming into my room and that's unsettling.
Too, what I'm almost wondering is that was interesting. What if they know the human, what do they call it? The human condition enough that they're like, oh, if we show up and we're weird, we seem disabled, people don't look, they're uncomfortable. They're not going to sit there and stare at us because they're uncomfortable. They want to look away. Maybe they were trying to come up with something that looked somewhat what they had seen in the area or something, but enough to be like, okay, if I'm like disabled, nobody wants to stare because it's rude. So maybe I'll just look like that so that he doesn't sit here and study us.
The
Aside from the fact
the
that you're in the
city
freaking,
that
you're
is
in your room.
the city that I live in is a very distinct medical community. We have one of the largest hospitals in the state that people come here for treatment and stuff. So it's definitely seeing people with either medical assistance or some type of medical issues that they're currently dealing with walking around is not uncommon because we've
I don't
got
know.
like one of the largest hospitals in the state, I think even in the country.
What if they thought if they appeared this way in their mind, they would not appear threatening in their mind because they're like, oh, I can't obviously chase you. I've got a hunchback and I can't move. I can't do all of these things. Maybe they portrayed themselves as something that they thought you would portray as, oh, they're not going to hurt me. They're not going to chase me down. It's not like you have Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Arnold Schwarzenegger in here going to whoop your ass. I'm just a little old guy with a hunchback and a
I
really
don't think
goofy red
so.
hair boy.
I don't think so because they still have this menacing presence about them.
But they can't change their presence. They can only change their appearance. Maybe they were trying to compensate, hoping that you couldn't pick up the presence, but you would just see them.
If they were like dipping into some subconscious into what made me uncomfortable, probably.
I
I
mean,
guess it
because
was a means of, yeah,
you're
keeping me
kind of sensitive,
placated.
right?
I try not to be.
Well,
It's
yeah.
sort of like I've had history of experiencing stuff, but
So
I've
maybe
tried
that's where
to
they
like
fucked up. Maybe it
slow
was
down.
if you were normal, quote unquote, normal or
Mhm.
average, you would not have picked up on their menacing part. You would have only seen what they wanted you to see, and you would not have realized that they were menacing. But they didn't realize that you were sensitive and that you could feel their intention. Maybe that's it. Maybe they were like, oh, if it's like a normal person who's not sensitive, they wouldn't be able to feel the stuff. They would just see what we want them to see.
Their intentions and what they were doing, their motivation was also puzzling as well because if you remember from what you recall of the instances, they had 0 interest in me. They weren't they had no interest in assaulting me or harassing me. I was if anything, I was a risk to whatever it is that they were doing. They were clearly interested in doing something else. They were looking for something else. I seemed to be in the way,
Mm.
or at least I seemed to be it I'm just there. And they were going looking they whatever their
They were on a
focus is
mission.
wasn't me. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to show my true kid here. What if this is one of those situations like Monsters Inc., only not monsters, I guess? What if there's some kind of portal or doorway or something and they needed to get to a particular place and they knew it was somewhere in the vicinity, but they didn't know exactly where? And maybe that's what they were looking for because, I mean, if you're in Monsters Inc., you always go through the closet door, right?
Mhm.
What if it's a similar kind of concept and all they know is that it's in a closet or it's behind a door or maybe a particular type of door? And that's why, even if it wasn't the closet, they were like, oh, I know it's a sliding door, or maybe it's all these other closets are sliding doors. So maybe this is one. No stone unturned.
Yeah. I truly don't know. I don't know. They didn't make their motives known. I
Hmm.
was just like I said, I was just in the same room as they were going about their usual business. Or if it was their usual business, they didn't appear lost or worried.
Yeah, it almost seems
Uh,
like they knew whatever they were looking for was somewhere in there. They just had to pinpoint where.
yeah, and they didn't seem to be satisfied. Like they didn't find anything. They didn't walk
Hmm.
away with anything. My getting up interrupted them, and then they left because I was regaining sentience. I was
Yeah.
regaining control. So then they sauntered themselves out. There wasn't any sort of like there was no communication other than the stern glance that the shorter one gave me. The taller one, I don't believe he even looked at me in the slightest,
Hmm.
other than the second time when I felt what I assumed was his presence because I guess the aura felt the same. It felt familiar.
What? And this only happened once, right? Like it's not like a recurring thing. It just been the one time.
Yeah, it was just the one time that it happened. I
Dang it.
since then, other than the other time when I felt like it was like a presence of one of them, that was the only time that I've ever seen them. I haven't seen anything since then.
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious if you'd had anything happen either before or after. Cause I was like, I mean, the fact that they come in and they don't acknowledge you at all, I was like, oh, what if it's what I'm looking for? Touching again. Not touching. Residual. But if it was residual, it would happen more than once. Whoa, look at that. Did you see that? That was like super bright up here. Something was
Mhm.
really hitting it.
I have had like a temporary residual haunting, but it
Hmm.
lasted about 6 months, and it wasn't related to anything to this. It was nothing in the bedroom.
Hmm.
It was like I would see out of the corner of my eye glimpses of like a shadow silhouette of a little girl walking down the hallway, and she would have this
Ugh,
snaky, fiery hair.
ugh,
And it was only like a second, and I didn't get any kind of menacing. There
yeah,
was no menacing thing. It was just a thing I see out of the corner of my eye. Oh, that's weird. And
yeah,
it only lasted like a couple months. I think it stopped. Like I felt it. I actually felt it leave s- when I posted about it on Facebook. I actually felt it. I felt the air change, and then it just. I guess I felt whatever, and then my place suddenly felt empty.
yeah.
Whatever pressure or
Like
presence
presence.
there just
Yeah.
left.
I wanted to ask, have you ever, and this is a weird question, have you ever had a CT scan done with what they call contrast?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
When you were explaining what you felt originally, I was hoping you had so that we could maybe compare the feelings. I've had a bunch of them. And they put the IV in, and before they put you in the little tube, they inject you with this dye. And the dye, you can feel it. It's like it shoots, like you said, all that's like it shoots through your bloodstream. I mean, you can feel it everywhere. And there's something about what they put in that it almost is like an instantaneous borderline panic attack. Like you can feel it's like it makes you feel like you are on high alert. And I mean, it goes away after a minute or two, but when you first get it, it's like a cool rush. You can feel it's almost like cold, and it just goes all the way through your body, and it kind of like speeds up your heart rate and stuff, and then you calm down. But it's like that initial, sorry, that initial thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I haven't had that. But as far as what I could relate to my experience, the feeling of fear shooting through me, I guess I can understand somewhat what that would feel like.
Yeah.
But it's until I like actually,
What I think is so crazy is, I mean, essentially, I mean, they didn't physically hold you down, but they kept you immobilized essentially as they're rummaging through everything.
it's more like I was already immobilized, and they just took advantage of the situation. I don't
Okay.
know
Okay.
if they had invoked it. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't say.
From that picture, it wouldn't take much for that big guy to sit on you and
Mm,
keep you down.
yeah, this was a one-off. I've never had that experience since
Yeah.
then, and I haven't had anything similar. If that was a screen memory, and then any follow-up would have been like screened differently. Since then, I've never experienced aliens. I've never experienced other than the one ghost that I talked about already, but that's clearly a different type of entity, and it's happening in a
Hmm.
different place. That one happened in my bedroom. The other one is just it felt more like a transitional residual haunting that just kept walking down the hallway, and then it dissipated.
A lot of people sometimes too, they don't feel comfortable sharing their experiences because they feel like they are. That was interesting.
Mm,
My K2 meter started going nuts. My phone says doomed, and then my internet says, you've got a poor connection.
mm,
I'm like, okay, are we good now? Okay.
uh-huh.
But a lot of people
Well,
don't because they feel like that if they had a like traditional, I guess, or more common experience, they would probably feel more comfortable because they wouldn't feel like they were so isolated in what they encountered. And I've noticed a lot of people, what seems like is they feel very guarded. They don't want to put their thing out there because they're like, oh, if it's not like everybody else's, that just makes me crazy, right? And nobody wants to share that. So I always encourage people, especially if it's something that is out of the norm, share those because just because you haven't heard somebody else tell that story or have the same encounter or have the same entity doesn't mean that somebody else has it. It's just that somebody else may have and not shared it. And by reaching out and telling our encounters that may seem abnormal or not a little bit against the grain, it might allow more people to be more confident and have that, oh, okay, like I'm not the only one. And it's just really cool because I'm from like podunk little town, Indiana, and you had two hillbilly ghosts or demons in your room. I don't know what they were, but
Mhm.
you had two, what was it you called them? Oh my gosh. In your picture, it was fantastic. Quantum white trash.
Yeah.
That was perfect. I was dying when I saw that. I was like, that is the best way
Yes.
you could have put it.
Yeah, these guys, they didn't fit the what is the typical common occurrence. They weren't hat people. They weren't shadow people. They weren't enveloped in darkness. It was they were like real people, real-ish people engaging in something. And but they yeah, they had a menacing presence, but they weren't out to get me type of thing. They didn't assault me.
Yeah. It's all the
Yeah.
people that crossed John Wayne Gacy on the street, but weren't victims. He was creepy, he was menacing, but he wasn't attacking them. So I think that's everything that I have. And I still am just over here like, oh my gosh, quantum white trash. Um, but yeah, so again, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, Chris, so much for coming on again and sharing your experience because
Mhm.
it was just one of those things. I was like, man, I have got to have you on. I've got to have you tell it because it's just so different than what we're used to and so detailed. I mean, you were able to draw these guys and know exactly what they're doing. You awake enough. It wasn't like it was like, oh, there was a shadowy blob or something. That and you're a talented
Yeah.
artist, which also helps. If I tried to do that, they'd probably just be stick figures. One would have like a funny T-shirt and a pair of shorts.
Yeah. The thing is that as far as now that it's out there, I'm sure I'm gonna eventually, if it gets popular, I'm gonna get people that said, "Oh, I saw them too."
Mhm.
And you got to be careful with that because there's going to be people that are going to they just want to, I don't know,
Yeah,
they're not
I
really
know what you mean.
honest, and it's more of a
Bandwagoners.
thing. Yeah. So as far as this unique experience, I don't know what to do with it. I hope that no one else had seen them as well. But but it's not so much what they are, but I felt what was so odd was their behavior.
Yeah, what they were doing.
They didn't, they didn't fit the typical, the the typical cookie cutter experience of what you should experience with a sleep paralysis. There wasn't a gray witch. None of them sat on my chest. None of them. It seemed like they didn't care about what I was doing there. It's like I was in the way, and that was so odd.
Yeah, you
I
were
mean,
just obstacle.
I can look back and laugh at it now, but in the moment I was terrified. And when I got up, I was unsettled and just terrified. I felt anxiety shooting through the roof, the sense of fear and violation. And
Mhm.
when I checked all my locks and stuff, because I figured it was a sleep paralysis experience due to the misshapen nature of the people. And I've studied sleep paralysis before, and I guess I was able to get out of it much earlier than I guess they anticipated me to, which is why they left unsatisfied and they didn't find whatever it is that they were looking for. I don't know. Some people want to speculate that maybe there's a haunted item in my room, or maybe I've got some sort of
Maybe.
interdimensional something or rather that they were clearly looking for. I just find the behavior odd and it's uncommon. And I guess that's why I'm glad that I'm bringing it forward now, because before it's something that I kept close to my chest because it was too, what I'm worried is that people are going to take a look at this and say, who have had genuine, terrifying, assaulted experience and say, oh, this guy's just trying to ridicule
Yeah.
my trauma. This guy's just trying to make fun of me. And that's not, had, what I had was something else.
Yeah.
And
And
if
it very
this,
well could have not even been
yeah,
sleep paralysis. It could have just been a
yeah,
different encounter. And it just so happened that maybe it was simply because you are a little sensitive. You sensed something in your room So your mind, which maybe is why your body didn't wake up, but your mind did, because your mind
Hmm.
subconsciously felt some presence in the room and was like,
Yeah.
"Shh, something's
It
in here. You need to
could
at
have
least
been
open your
something
eyes."
else. Yeah.
And it
I
might
mean,
have
they
just
could have
been
been,
that you were aware.
yeah, they could have been something else because it's common in alien abduction lore that they turn people off.
Yes.
They know the off switch for that. And if that's what that was, then that means that this was some type of unsettled alien encounter then instead, I guess. And with, I guess, the ultra terrestrial thing, I guess these
Oh,
guys
yeah.
would fit into that envelope. So maybe it wasn't even a sleep paralysis experience at all, but I don't know. It was a one off. I haven't had anything since then. And I'm just slowly trying to work this out. And all I can do now is just talk to people like you
Yeah.
and other people out there and just bring this to them. And everybody's got their 2 cents of
Hmm.
what they think it is. And unfortunately, I have to shoot it down because that's not what happened type of thing. But
Yeah.
it's
What? But I
at least we're
mean,
trying. At least we're
with so
trying.
many
Yeah.
people out there, somebody's going to have something that makes sense. And you never know unless you ask
Hmm.
or you talk about it or you bring it up. And that's the way I do. I talk about these all the time because I'm like, you never know. You never know. I mean, I've been listening to a podcast once and there's like somebody that, I mean, it wasn't exactly, but it was similar to something I've experienced and no one else has ever, I've heard, never ever heard anybody else have it.
Hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute. That's, that sounds really familiar. I think I saw the same thing. And it was just really, we found out it was probably something different. But I even had, so I had a customer at my work come in. He's not even from the area. He's like an hour and a half away. He just so happened to stop by with his job. He travels and we were having a conversation. And what's weird is he had seen something in the sky and he was telling me about it after I randomly mentioned I had a podcast of what it was about. And so he was telling me this encounter he had. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because that sounds a lot like something that I have seen. Like they weren't at the same time or anything, in totally different areas and everything. And then what's weird is we had the same kind of encounter situation, and we noticed that we both actually shared a mark on our, it was like our hand or something, like our finger. We had the same little, it almost looked like a little incision, and it was a scar that we both have that we both didn't have prior to whatever we encountered. But we don't, it was like we both had this blank space where we don't know. It was like we have pieces, but don't know exactly everything. And then I was like, yeah, I was like, and then whenever I woke up, I had this. And he was like, you got that too? And I'm like, wait, what? And he was like, right here. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, that is so crazy. But you never know. You never know unless you bring it up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And thank you for letting me share this on a show. I'm glad that you took the time to really delve into this. I hope that your listeners really enjoy the time and effort that you put into these.
I would say I think we all have a good time here. And like I said, we really appreciate like anytime I can get anybody who has some like actual like, real personal encounters, I try to put them in as much as I can because sometimes I feel like if you're just researching and you're just going through the stats and descriptions and all of that, I feel like sometimes it doesn't quite get the point there, I guess. So having somebody that has something similar or like anything like that, it adds a little, I believe, some veracity to the concept and allows us to be like, okay, it's not just something you read in a medical book. It's not something you could just Google. I mean, this shit happens. And it's like an added proof, in my opinion. And I always love hearing everybody's encounters. So again, everybody send your encounters in to my email. It's going to be somewhere in there. Click the link down there because everything's down the bottom. But yeah, so we can go ahead, close this up again though. Chris, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to post. I don't know when this is going to be out. It's probably going to be like, I don't know, we might be like 4 or 5 weeks out right now. But I'm
That's
going to
fine.
try to make, like I did with your cover art with that one episode, I want to see if I can add in the little quantum white trash
Mhm.
to have them on there just so that everybody has the visual. I'll also in
Well,
my social media.
We'll see if we can work something up because I like going through your feed and then I see logo, logo furry, logo, logo.
I've been considering, I'm like, well, I could put photos, but my thing is, I'm like, I don't want to select a photo that's going to end up getting me in trouble
Mm.
for using it. So I usually tend to keep my logo because I know I made my logo, so I'm not going to get sued or anything. But if it is something where somebody puts it out there, then I like to put it on there because one, it's your art and you're the guest and
Yeah,
it
I'll see if I
rocks.
can send you something. We'll work
Okay.
something up like last time.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But again, everybody, check the description. Make sure you go check him out. Give him some likes, shares, love, because we're all awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, don't forget, send your stuff in. If you have any questions or anything, go check him out. You can probably message and all of that fun jazz about all the social medias. But until next time, everybody.
Mm. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. If you wouldn't mind, please take a moment and give the show a 5-star review wherever you're listening. I know it might not seem like much, but it greatly helps the show and allows people to find us more easily. Also, head on over to www.patreon.com/cryptids, creeps, and conspiracy and subscribe to any of the tiers. Members of the Big Show tier get bonus materials, personalized shoutouts on the pod, ad-free episodes, access to the private Discord server, quarterly appreciation gifts, and a chance to be on the show. Not to mention video versions of the episode. Before you go, don't forget to click the link in the description and grab yourself or someone you know some self-designed merch by me, or make a donation to help keep the show going and fund future events and investigations. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Threads, and TikTok. If you have any questions, topic recommendations, or personal encounters, please send them to cryptidscreepsandconspiracy@gmail.com or submit them through the contact form at www.cryptidscreepsandconspiracy.com. I would love to hear from you and share your experiences on a listener episode. Just make sure that you specify that I have permission to add your encounter to the show and let me know whether or not you would like your real name read or an alias to maintain confidentiality. Thank you guys all again so much for your support. Until next time, my friends. See ya.